Our final presenter this evening is Brian Flowers. Brian is a lifelong resident of Whatcom County and now lives in Everson with his wife and daughter. He works as the managing funeral director and the green burial coordinator for Mole's Farewell Tributes and Green Acres Memorial Park, where he designed and developed the Meadow Natural Burial Ground. Brian also serves as the president of the Green Burial Council, an international nonprofit engaged in eco-certification of cemeteries, funeral homes, and products providing for green burials. Let's welcome Brian to the stage.
When I step up to the podium, I really step up to the podium. It's such a privilege to be here with all of you wonderful superhumans of Bellingham. I know most of you are dying to run for the bathroom after the beer in 2 hours. I promise this will be short, 6 minutes, 40 seconds. It's go time. Have you ever said or heard someone say, "I don't care what you do with my body after I die, I'll be gone"? I believe that we do care deeply. But when we're faced with only two options, neither of which makes sense to us, we assuage our discomfort by saying, "I don't care." Those two options are traditional burial with all of its trappings and cremation with its often minimalist approach. Both of these options are industrial and resource intensive. Additionally, over the last 100 years, we have had the meaning co-opted out of our funeral rites, packaged and sold back to us. This has both resulted from and led to the extreme death denial that is prevalent in our culture. Traditional burial with its embalming, viewings, fancy caskets, vaults, hearses, dark suits, holds very little meaning for many of us in our culture anymore. The reaction to this has been to seek simple cremation, with our loved ones handed back to us in a cardboard or plastic box. I have been the one that have handed that box back more times than I can count, and it breaks my heart because I have done nothing to help that family or that individual engage healing and grieving. But when a third option is put on the table, one that makes sense to us, one that resonates with the values we live by, and helps us make real meaning out of a difficult experience, we can find that we do care very deeply what happens to our bodies. And I have seen this again and again when green burial enters the conversation. Green burial is burial without embalming in a 100% biodegradable, non-toxic container, perhaps a solid wood or woven wicker casket or a simple burial shroud, and without a vault or liner for the casket to go in. And it can also be used as a vehicle for ecological restoration and landscape level conservation. It is a simple, direct, and expedient return to the earth and its cycles that offers unique meaning-making opportunities. Our culture's extreme death denial and radical divorce from the natural world are deeply intertwined. Denial of death, its importance, and its power absolves us of responsibility to life and the natural world, resulting in destructive and perilous relationships with death and nature. When we're living in harmony with natural cycles, the distinction between life and death blurs. Everything that is alive is here because other things have died and provided for it. Green burial allows us re-entry in a productive relationship with death and nature in a very real and scientific manner as we re-enter the nitrogen cycle, becoming the nutrients for new life in the form of plants and trees placed over us by our loved ones. While green burial facilitates a meaningful healing of our relationships with death and nature, there are options for green burial in our community, and it grows as a movement around the country and the globe. It is still rooted in the traditional death care paradigm from which it grew out of and exists in reaction to. Its full potential is yet to be realized. So, I offer here my vision for green burial in Whatcom County. I would like to establish a destination death and dying center while conserving a significant tract of land, say 500 to 1,500 acres or more, by creating what the Green Burial Council defines as a conservation burial ground in partnership with an established third-party conservation entity like the Whatcom Land Trust. Even though the burial ground itself may only take 50 to 100 acres of the property, the state would recognize the entire property as a cemetery, and as such it could never be developed as anything else. And this would be further enforced by a conservation easement. Only best practice green burial techniques would be allowed. A perpetual care trust fund would have to be established by law and funded from a portion of proceeds from the sale of burial plots. We can create sacred space, endow a piece of land, generate revenue from it, while at the same time restoring and conserving it. But this is just the beginning, the model as it currently exists. I've started to research ways to legally and viably offer traditional platform sky burial and open-air cremation as meaningful alternatives. There would be a ritual center on site to provide space, tools, and resources for crafting unique and meaningful rituals, ceremonies, and celebrations. I would like the facilities to include an on-site hospice house, so there is a continuity of care through death, dying, into final burial and disposition. I know from working as a funeral director that my primary responsibility is not to the deceased, it's to the families I serve, to the emotional and spiritual needs of the bereaved. So there should be on-site lodging, dining, and spa services in a beautiful restorative setting so families can be nurtured as they are present and close at hand for their loved ones. These families will also need to be provided a variety of resources to assist them in engaging grieving and healing, to be able to address the larger cultural issues pertaining to our relationships with death and nature. I would also like to establish an education and conference center somewhere else on this piece of property, from which classes, workshops, and retreats could be held with topics like conservation, nature awareness, ecological restoration, nature interpretation, and of course, death and dying, and the collusion of all these issues. The danger I see with this model is that the cost structure could become prohibitive, making it only an elitist option. So to prevent that, a concurrent goal is to also establish a foundation to access financial resources and provide funding for people that would not otherwise be able to afford this. This is my vision for my home, for Whatcom County, for the world, to help us move from I don't care to I care deeply. Thank you for taking 6 minutes.